Again, my name's Joe Furler. We're going to be leading the Cloud Commander Bootcamp today, users and how to manage them. We will, please note for today, as legal always wants to come in to say hi, today's session will be recorded for quality control and training purposes. However, I cannot send out the deck from today's bootcamp, nor can I send out the recording or deck, sorry. And there should be a version of this inside the Enable Me portal. So if you go to me.enable.com, that's me.n-able.com. If you log in underneath the learning dropdown, you should see the Enable You section. Underneath Enable You, if you go to Content Library and search Cloud Commander, you should see a recording of this session. Please note as well, if we do talk about any forward-facing items for today's session, I am not dev nor my PM. So while I'm giving you the most accurate information I have at this point in time, timeframes are always subject to change as bugs or vulnerabilities or, maybe some features pop up and take precedence. And again, I don't control their schedules. So please do be aware there. Quick introduction to myself. Again, my name's Joe Furla. I've been here at Enable for 7 years now. Need to update my slide. Had a bunch of boot camps, still haven't gotten them all updated. My apologies. But I started in the company here at Channel Sales. Spent a little bit of time there before being given the opportunity to join the sales engineer team. We found that I'm not the best salesperson, but I did know our product almost inside and out, and I tend to make a pretty good consultant. So the sales engineer position was quite a good fit for me. Sat in the sales engineer position for quite some time before being given the opportunity to join the partner success management team, where I was one of the original 6 to implement and create that motion at what the time was SolarWinds, but now Enable, and had a great time sitting there for a number of years as well, before being given the opportunity to join the head nerd team. I joined the head nerd team originally as the Insight head nerd, but that very quickly evolved into Insight as well as operational efficiency in Mac, with the release of analytics that went under my belt, and then with the release of Cloud Commander, I became the Cloud Commander head nerd as well. You'll also see me with MSP Manager, Mail Assure, Take Control, Passportal, and the like. More importantly on this slide, though, let's be quite honest, we want to focus down here underneath the highlight where you have my contact information. If you do need to get in touch with me for any reason, or you have any questions about a product or anything like that, please feel free to shoot me an email, joseph.furla@enable.com. You can find me on Reddit as Headner Joe, and you can catch me on LinkedIn under Joe Furla. So, user management inside Cloud Commander. Okay. For today's session, we're going to stay inside Cloud Commander. For our users, we're going to talk about onboarding and offboarding within Cloud Commander itself. We'll talk about some of the basics that we can do at the L1 or L2 level, as well as some of the basics we can do with management, user management. We'll talk about some security and Intune items. We'll talk a little bit about reporting. And then we'll dive in to the true offboarding there at the end, kind of seeing the life cycle of the user. Now, please note, this specific bootcamp is within Cloud Commander only. Are we going to be looking at user management? If we are interested in something like the Power Automate connector and how it interacts with user management, you will see a Cloud Commander and Power Automate bootcamp specifically designed for that. We have kept them separate from these other pieces because, well, Power Automate tends to add about an hour and a half to 2 hours to a bootcamp. So in favor of brevity here, we'll be sticking within the Cloud Commander console itself. Okay, so should have a reasonably streamlined bootcamp today. We should see anywhere from about 45 to about 60 minutes. So, I would expect to stick it out of here a little bit early today. Any hoosers. we'll dive in. So, as always within the Cloud Commander world, we're going to start with the trial process because it is a little bit unique. We're going to have to start with the creation of a service account. Within your customer portal, we are going to look at creating a service account. That service account is going to be uniquely named, something like Cloud Commander Service Account CC, CC Service Account, whatever. You pick the nomenclature, you pick the naming. I assure you it's, as long as you know who it is, I don't care. We're going to give that service account global admin privileges as well as admin agent privileges underneath the manages your users as heading. We're specifically doing that so we can properly manage the needed GDAP connections within your environment to make Cloud Commander function. We'll then go in to start our trial. Once you get the trial email to your email account, you'll log in underneath your user, and then from there, what will happen is we will authenticate Cloud Commander using that service account, and we'll begin onboarding clientele. So what does this look like for us? Well, what it's going to look like, bear with me as I get my Cloud Commander pulled up here so we can log in. Upon first initial login, we are going to come to portal.cm.prd.cloudapp.enable.com. We'll be given our initial login screen here. Again, we will log in using our admin credentials per normal with Microsoft. Enter in your password. Multi-factor authentication needs to be entered. And we will hit this first initial login screen that is blank. Okay, we will see no users. All right, and that's to be expected. Okay, from there, we'll come to Settings, Microsoft Cloud Access. And that will bring us to the first screen after setting up that service account and setting up our trial, where we will authenticate. Now, my particular instance has been authenticated, of course, but what you folks will see over here on the right-hand side will be a big blue authenticate button. We'll click that button. A pop-up will appear, and then what we'll do is we'll go through that pop-up logging in with the service account. We will then authenticate on behalf of that account only. You will see a nice enticing checkbox pop up to authenticate on behalf of your organization. We will leave that blank. We will authenticate for the service account and the service account only. Once we have authenticated, okay, and gone through that little wizard, we will begin to see our clientele appear in the Microsoft Cloud Access section of Cloud Commander here. To enable or onboard our own clientele, we'll find someone who is labeled disabled. Okay, we'll double click on that disabled heading, and we will switch them over to the enabled heading. What that will then do is put them into the needs approval status, where we can copy the approval link of or for that GDAP connection. We'll come in using that end user's admin credentials. We will authenticate on behalf of our end user. Okay. We set this up so that your end user does not get the email stating, hey, you need to authenticate this, and we give you, the MSP, the control of that. From there, we'll hop into the awaiting Microsoft status, where we're at Microsoft's mercy to perform the authentication and create that GDAP connection. From there, we will come into the issues found or the approved status. For those of us who are indirect CSPs, more often than not, you are going to be in the issues found status here. Okay, not because there are issues per se, but because if you come to click review limitations, more often than not, your reseller has not provided you the proper permissions to manage your Azure subscriptions in the fashion that Cloud Commander needs. This is not because they do not want to, it's because they do not have to. So please note, this is a very common thing we are seeing. What we'll need to look at doing is come to that hyperlink that says more information here. We will get to an article where we provide 2 PowerShell scripts from Microsoft itself, where we will first off pull the admin agents group object ID from your Partner Center account. We will then use that object ID as well as your end user's account and the target subscription for Azure's ID. And we will provide you with the proper owner permissions to that group. This will be a 2-step process per end user organization. We do have the much larger PowerShell script here that can be a one and done run against all of your clientele. Pick your poison as to how you would like to run that particular motion. Again, both of the scripts were provided directly from Microsoft, so I do have faith in both of them. I have not run the big one myself, just because I'm a little paranoid with permissions, but I have seen the 2-step process run quite smoothly, so I am pretty sure that large one will run quite smoothly as well. Once you run those scripts against your end users, if you would like to manage Azure, you'll come and you'll click revalidate. If you do not want to manage Azure and you get to this screen, you can just click cancel. You'll be good to go. Whether the end users are in issues found or approved status, they will still get the proper functionality of Cloud Commander for you and your technicians to be able to perform their day-to-day support or work. You'll just need to be aware that if you are indirect and you don't do this, Azure will be off limits. For the direct CSPs, more often than not, you're going to be in the approved status. Okay. From there, the next onboarding item we will have is to come to user settings. These are for our organizations that are hybrid accounts. We'll come in, we'll enter in the automation account name, resource group name, hybrid worker group name, and associated subscription ID. Please note, if you do not have an automation account set up within Microsoft, we will require it for the use of hybrid workers here. And that does require a little bit of elbow grease on the back end, as we'll have to make sure our devices are communicating via Azure Arc, have the Azure AD Connect agent or the service if we're migrating to that early. Please note during August, the migration, I believe, comes mandatory because Microsoft is moving away from agent-based items. And you'll have to make sure you have the associated PowerShell licensing all on the AD itself. Once that's been entered, we'll come back to identity. We'll do a quick check to see if users are populating, both for your organization as well as your end users' organizations. And we'll go ahead and select my organizations here. And we will see our user accounts populating over the next few minutes to an hour, depending on how many clients we're onboarding in one fell swoop. All right, we'll hop back over to our PowerPoint. All right, so that brings us to, we've onboarded into Cloud Commander. We're now looking at some user management. Okay. And this is where we start to really bring efficiency into our day-to-day service management or service delivery. So we're going to start at the very beginning here, and we are going to look at adding new users, the very simple step of creating that user themselves. From there, we will hop into uh, some more onboarding type items in the next section. And then once we get done with reporting, we'll look at removing old users. I'm going to split this up a little bit differently than we see here in the PowerPoint, just so we see what a life cycle kind of would look like, rather than here's onboarding, offboarding, here's user management. Seems a little bit disjointed to me. But anywho, let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do with onboarding. All right, so we hop into Cloud Commander. We've got our clientele onboarded. We've got our users within the tool. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And by users at this point, I mean users within your organization. So keep in mind when we get to groups and permissions, we'll need to make sure we're looking at your users a little bit. All right, so we'll click new user. We'll select the organization we would like to add the user at. Okay, so here we'll just use Asgardian Real Estate. Okay. We'll click next. We will enter in the username. So here, let's just do joseph.furla. Okay, we'll choose the appropriate domain, which will be pre-populated for us from a drop-down. First name will be Joseph. Okay. Account settings enabled. Choose your specific country or region. Job information. We'll just call me head nerd. Assign a manager. We'll choose Loki. He seems like he would be heading a sales department, and then the company name Asgardian. Right, we'll enter in that whole company name. From there, we will save. We'll get brought in to a confirm screen where we will be given the temporary password. We will confirm, and that user will be successfully created. We see in the top right-hand corner our green boxes telling us that the automation has run properly. Once we click done, we'll be brought back to the user screen, and we can quickly come in and search for our new user. Okay, so onboarding being quite simple there. Okay. For our technicians, as we're bringing somebody into our org, or as we're dealing with existing users getting brought into Cloud Commander, we are going to want to be cognizant of the groups section. You will note that there are 3 preloaded groups within the tool. They are the CC admins, CC technicians, and CC license admin groups right here. Okay. These groups are the items that you are going to assign to your users at your organization to be able to utilize Cloud Commander at the varying levels they are at. Okay, so tier 1, probably going to get CC technicians as a group. Tier 2, maybe CC technicians and admin. We'll get finance in here with license admin. You can get yourselves in here as owners with all 3, right? But it's really going to depend on the varying level of the tool access that they will need as to what group you'll put them in. Okay, so do be aware as we go through. All right, so we've looked at the simple building of a user or creating a user within the tool and getting them onboarded into your Microsoft world. Now, this has done nothing but username, password, pretty much. We've got them under the right manager, we've got them in the right department, that kind of deal, but we've done nothing with user management here. And we purposely skipped that in our onboarding motion, specifically because we're looking at user management and this kind of next step of onboarding being very similar. There's a couple items that go above and beyond that for user management itself, but we'll take a look at these two motions, at least utilizing the same places or the same sections of Cloud Commander as their primary tool sets. So let's hop back over into Cloud Commander and let's work with this new Joseph Furla salesperson. Now, in my normal day-to-day service delivery, I can use my checkbox here to get a lot of my quick hit items done. Click the checkbox, I can revoke sessions, reset multi-factor authentication, reset password, edit the user, delete the user, refresh the user within the Cloud Commander dashboard. On the vertical dot menu, all the way on the right-hand side of the pink bar, I'll get those same options. And that's good for quick hit items, right? Resetting password becoming a very quick item, especially if we're going to be migrating across tenants or sifting through a large user base. We can click a checkbox, hit reset password, enter in the new temporary password, go. Okay, brings us some efficiency to our day-to-day, but more importantly, coming in, clicking the hyperlink, okay, associated with the name of the user, I get those same actions. I get a brief summary, items that I may want to fill out. But more importantly, I get the groups to authentication methods portion of this menu. So here I can come in and underneath, oops, wrong Joseph Furla. I want the as Guardian Joseph Furla, not the Test US. Aha, there we are. All right, so I get my basics. I can edit if necessary. I can come to groups. We'll note by onboarding this user, I've got some predefined groups that I'm already a part of. If I would like to add more from the Asgardian organization, I can come in and add as I would like. So I'll select my group. Okay. Come in, hit select. That group will get added. I can come in, select that group here, and I can remove membership quite quickly. Okay, so quick, simple, and easy access. And we'll see these green boxes up in the right-hand corner telling us the work's been done. Now, we're going to see three colors of boxes as we continue to move through management. Green tells us everything ran well. Blue tells us something is kicked off and is running. Red tells us, hey, this failed. Okay, we'll note in this particular section of the tool, we can add M365 and security groups, as well as platform groups. Platform are going to be specifically Cloud Commander groups that will allow end user self-service within the tool. Please note we will limit the scope to themselves only, and they will not be able to see any of our other organizations or functions if you don't want them to. So if I come in and I give this Joseph Furley user access to, say, manage licensing, they won't see anything but their organization, their user, and the licenses section. Okay. Roles is going to be very similar, where I can look at adding platform roles in a very similar fashion to which I added groups, except here we're going to have a little bit of a wizard where I'll come in, I will select the users or groups I'm adding this particular role to. Here we'll focus on one-to-one. We'll come in, select scope, which is always going to be that end user's organization only, and confirm the addition of those permissions. I don't want to give him admin role here. Now, please do keep in mind, we can also add Entra assignments in the same fashion. Select the assignment, click next, and we will confirm. Okay, so simple addition of roles here. License management for these users is very simple as well. To add a new license, I can come in, click Assigned License, come to configure that particular license here by selecting the appropriate available licensing from the dropdown. Let's give them a business premium license. Okay, I'll be able to interact with my services as I need. Okay, come in, click next and confirm, and that license is going to get applied per the green checkbox. I can come into any existing license, add a user to configure services, and I can unassign that license with a simple click. Underneath the automate section here, I will be able to see a few pieces of automation. We are expanding this out a little bit as we speak. We always are. Okay. However, there's some good items already in here. I need to give access to a mailbox. I need to convert to a shared mailbox, set max send and receive size, come in, look at removing the mailbox, grant OneDrive admin site permissions. I can do so here. To run a piece of automation, let's look at set max receive size. I will select the command block I would like to run, hit add command job, enter in the appropriate variables and values that I would like. So let's say 10 meg here. Click next and confirm. And we'll see our blue box kick off. We'll click done. And we'll go back to our regularly scheduled user management. Once that piece of automation has completed, we'll see it appear within our command logs as finished. Okay, and we'll be able within the command logs for each of our users check to see who did what, when, and where. We'll be able to click into the piece of automation that we've run, get a little bit more in our summary, and get any errors and or successes that we may need to pull from here. So some nice whodunit automation or whodunit auditing logs. The last item we'll have under the individual user itself will be our revoke all sessions and reset multi-factor authentications underneath authentication methods, as well as the system and user authentication preferences. Okay, so some very nice individual control here that we get from our users. Okay. Outside of that individual control, we'll also be given the ability to create and manage groups for our clientele, where I can come into an existing group and add members as necessary or roles as necessary, very similar to how we already saw it. And then underneath user permissions, I can add roles to users as well. Please note here that this section is for platform roles only, okay, and it is not scoped to my selected organization from the dropdown. It gives us global access to add this particular role to groups and individual users underneath the add assignments headings at all points in time. So nicely bringing us through our user management. Now, we'll have some security items that we will want to hit, okay, with user management. Now, a couple of them we already went over. Individual multi-factor authentication and individual password management. We're also going to take a look at some of the things we could do with our configuration profiles and compliance policies for our users. And we'll also take a look at risky users and some actions we can take as well from within the tool, bringing us further up the ladder of day-to-day service delivery away from just our L1 and L2 technicians into that L2 and L3 world, possibly even hitting our engineers. So again, we'll have a nice little demo. So let's start with multi-factor and risky users. Underneath the security heading, we're going to have authentication methods. This is where for the selected organizations, we're going to show your system authentication status, system authentication preference, and user authentication preference. Select a user, and we'll be able to revoke sessions and reset multi-factor authentications as needed. Okay. Underneath risky users, we're going to get a little bit more meat, right? Multi-factor authentication is really simple with what we're doing. Risky users gives us a little bit more complexity, where we will see our risky users, select our risky users, and we will be able to block or unblock that user. We'll be able to confirm as compromised. We'll be able to dismiss the found risk. We'll be able to reset passwords. And what we'll see within our reporting is both the severity and risk state, but also last updated item on that risk and risk detail. Risk detail, of course, being actions that have been taken. Okay. So some nice items here for our users in, I would say, kind of the security world. Some quick hit items. Underneath assets, once it decides to open for me, let's get impatient. Let's reload Cloud Commander here. We'll come in, I'll select as Guardian. There we go. Let's expand assets. Haha. We're going to see our configuration and compliance policies. Now, these do tend to be global items that encompass both users, devices, and organizations as a whole, but there are some good items that we should check out for our users. So underneath compliance, if I come to assign policy to the selected companies or company that I have in my dropdown, we'll get a confirmation as to whether or not we can actually perform the work, and we'll hop into some brief but powerful items, right? Specifically looking at password security for our users, as well as defender settings for our users. So some quick hits underneath our compliance items. Underneath configuration profiles, we do have quite a bit more, however, because here we're going to be looking at individual device items, but more importantly, as we come into endpoint protection, right, what we are going to be hitting for our individual devices and their security, as well as some individual user items like multi-user device templates, right, our configuration policies, our basic Wi-Fi items, and the like. And we'll go through and we'll add those in the same fashion that we just added the compliance items. So while these do tend to be a bit more global, we do want to be aware of what we're doing with our end users with them. All right, second to last item for us to hit today, okay, is going to be our reporting. So the first things we're going to talk about is what have we already seen? Okay, and that's going to pretty much revolve around our MFA and risky users, as well as our command logs, both for the individual user, as well as for our configuration and compliance profiles, as well as pretty much anything we do. Okay. And the thing we want to note with these is that if we see a table inside Cloud Commander, so let's come to multi-factor here. If we see a table, it's exportable 99.999% of the time. Okay, so we can come in and if we see one of these tables, pull it. Be it multi-user, be it risky users, be it individual users themselves, be it a command log, be it a Intune list, a license list, anything along those lines. It can be pulled out of the tool. Now, it might not be the best for customer-facing items, but it's still some good internal reporting for us. It's still nice to know that that information can be pumped out of the tool quite quickly and easily. More importantly, inside the tool than just ease of use to access is going to be our global command log, where it doesn't matter what user or configuration profile we're looking at, we're going to be able to see the work that we've done, as well as our secure score report. Maybe not individually user specific, but client specific. And we can see our Microsoft Secure Score. We can see the number of controls that we have available to us, typically 74, and we'll see the number of controls achieved. We'll see our secure based off of those number of controls received, and we'll be able to see some trend reporting. Okay, filterable by organization as well as time frame. We'll also see available licensing. Okay. Coming in and being able to see by organization and license type, how many are available, how many are assigned, how many are unassigned. Also filterable by time frame. So some nice quick and snappy reporting that we'll see within our tool. Okay. Last thing we'll have to handle today is going to be offboarding. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Come in, select the user, and delete the user. Okay, basic offboarding completed there. Now, there's a number of things that we may want to look at doing before we do this, right? Let's go into the command block section. We can convert their mailbox to a shared mailbox. We can delegate mailbox permissions to somebody. We can go ahead and push them over to specific OneDrive permissions, right? And we'll also see a number of other items within the tool. Okay. Switching back to our handy dandy PowerPoint. That brings us to the end of today's user management within Cloud Commander dashboard review. It's been a pleasure delivering today's bootcamp. So let's get any lingering questions we may have into the questions pane. If you folks have questions that you don't want to ask in today's demo, but you want to spend a little bit more time on or have more of a back and forth discussion with, please feel free to email me. If it warrants a meeting, I'll be happy to set up that meeting. Okay. Outside of that, we will talk to you folks later. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to deliver these boot camps. And we will go ahead and give you folks about 15 minutes back to your regularly scheduled MSP service delivery days. We'll talk to you folks later. And we hope to see you in some of the continuing Cloud Commander webinars. Most importantly, as a follow-up to this one, I check out the Power Automate one. The Power Automate one is wicked good. I'm a big fan of it. And while we're going over basics of Power Automation, it is a nice place to get some of your more complex questions out of the way. It's also a really nice place to look at seeing what Power Automate can do when combined with Cloud Commander. And I think it's just very nice to have inside your organization. Anywho, we'll talk to you folks later. Bye-bye.